right? So you guys ready? Okay, good, awesome. And I like enthusiasm. I like feedback. It does two things, right? I like to ask questions because it keeps you awake. It's very easy when someone's talking to kind of drift off or be on your phone checking the email or whatever, whatever it might be. You're still listening, but you can drift off, right? Number one. And number two, the more you engage, the more you get out of it. Because at the end of the day, what I don't want these talks to be that I do, and I will do more of them, is just an information session. Because quite frankly, you can go online and get information. You can buy books and get information. But I want it to be transformational. Right? I want testimonials coming out of these things. I want to hear, man, my blood pressure was this, or I had this going on, or I lost this much weight. I want to see that your life has improved. And then what I really want to see is that you guys become warriors. What does that mean? It means that now you've actually taught other people, whether it be your family members or acquaintances, friends, whatever it might be. You now have an impact in your community. And that's how we're really going to, right, that's how you got here, right? So that's how we're really going to change our communities and change this country and change our world. Sounds good? So let's jump into this. So first of all, if you have which I know you all have your phones, you can take hi guys, you can pull this up on your phone, your camera. Have you guys already done that? And so the LRQ test, we'll talk about this. Some of you have already done that. So you don't have to fill it out now, but you can pull it up and we can talk about this a little bit later on. So let's I should turn this on. So let's kind of rip through some of these slides right here. So I already explained that what a makeover is, love my guts. So in Max Living, it's been around for 20 plus years, first of all. It's gone through many name changes, but the concept has been around for a long time, number one. Number two, we didn't invent this whole idea of natural living. Our whole goal is to restore it. There's a natural order when it comes to everything on the planet. Would you guys agree? Including your health, there's a natural order. And so we were not designed to be sick. I want you to understand that. Sickness and disease is unnatural. It is not natural. It may be common and it may be prevalent, but it's unnatural. The natural state of the human body is one of health and vitality, right? And vibrance. That's the natural state of the human body. So when you see that we are sick and suffering, even right now with COVID, right, there is a natural order and a balance to everything. And so when you see that we're sick, it's because we've gone away from the natural order. And sometimes it's the individual things that we've done in our lives or collectively as a society that really leads to where we are today. But if you understand that concept, the good news is that we can take responsibility for our health and we can make some changes. Sounds good? So you can see there our mission, we want to empower longer, healthier lives, okay, through chiropractic care and the integration of the 5 essentials. And so we have offices, when I say we, Max Living, really all over North America. There are several in Canada. We used to have a lot more in Puerto Rico. So it's really a global organization. But here in the United States, there are several of them. And so really, it's just a group of doctors and their support team who decided we like this mission and we want to join on this mission, right? So it's not like a franchise, even though they do have that model too. It's just a group of us that said, we really like what you guys stand for and we love what you do. And so over the years, I've been a part of it for about 12 years now, and I've really seen the evolution of it. And so that's part of our mission. So right now we have several people who are actually doing this talk on a grand scale in terms of the makeover or workshops all over the country at different dates. So think about how many thousands of people who are hearing the same information being impacted. So you're part of a bigger movement, right? Which I think is excited. This guy right here, he's not bad. So why are we here today? Here's why we're here today. They say that 74% of Americans, I'm going to refer to my notes, I don't want to miss anything, of people are living with gastrointestinal issues. That's bloating, that's things like abdominal pain, diarrhea, constipation. You guys get the idea. 74%. That means that 3 out of every 4 people, 74% of people in this room, maybe even higher, have gut health issues, number one. Number two, let's expand it. Not only are we dealing with those situations, but right now, according to the stats, and this changes every year, 655,000 people are suffering with heart disease. right? Like, I mean, I'm just curious. Raise your right hand if you know someone personally, or maybe it's you yourself, who suffers from heart disease. Okay? Now keep that hand up for a second, right? Raise your left hand up if you know someone who, or personally, who suffered from cancer. So if you look around the room, take a look. It never fails. Every hand is up. Most people have two. You can put them down. So this is impacting us either directly or indirectly with family members or you yourself. Does that make sense? So these things are important, but the problem is that we become so comfortable with diseases that we just kind of shrug it off. Like if you hear that someone has cancer, I mean, you feel bad, right? You want to pray for them. You want the best for them, but do you really, like, it's not like you're not shocked. Or someone has heart disease or on blood pressure medication. You're not really shocked, are you? Right? It's become so prevalent. So I want to change that mindset. We cannot get comfortable with sickness and disease, right? I want it to be uncomfortable for us. So we have more depression, anxiety, and all these other diseases than any other country in the world. So we can't continue on this path, because what happens is if you have a sick society, your productivity goes down, right? We spend $3 trillion a year on average on health, on crisis in this country, on healthcare, and we're still not healthier, okay? So that has to change. So that's why we're here today. So Hippocrates, who's called the father of medicine, he made the statement that all diseases begin in the gut. Now, a lot of them do, not all, but many of them do, and there's a reason why he's saying that. So here's a list of diseases that we know are directly related to your gut health. The number one is autoimmune diseases in all of its various forms. It's gut health. You have to understand that, we went backwards, really and truly, because there was a point in time where doctors or healthcare practitioners a long time ago looked at the human body and said, I think that there's a problem in the gut. I think you're sick because of what's happening on the inside and it's lifestyle. And somewhere along the line, right, we shifted and we said, well, whatever is going on, we're no longer interested in the cause, even though we say we are. We're now interested in just treating the person, treating the disease, the condition. So here you go with the drugs and surgery. So we went from an inside-out approach, which is really what he was suggesting, and we switched to an outside-in approach, where we said we're just going to start to give drugs, and if we can make you feel better, if we can change your lab results, right, then we have success. So the definition of health, it really moved from let's make this person whole again, hence holistic, right, and vitalism, which is what chiropractic principles are based on, and it went more to, well, let's make this person comfortable and let's try to lessen the diagnosis. You guys see what I'm saying? And so drugs and this outside-in approach became a lifestyle, which it was never intended to, right? So you got to start looking at the gut. So what's the human digestive system? It's very dynamic, but in its basic form, you really have your GI tract, which is just hollow, right, from the mouth to the esophagus, right, all the way into the stomach, the small and large intestines, and the anus. So that's your digestive tract. And then you have these organs. You have like the liver, and then you have the pancreas and gallbladder. You have those three organs, and they're all part of the digestive system. So obviously, the purpose of your digestive system is really to do what? Break down and assimilate food and nutrients, right? Your body needs nutrients. So what you eat does matter, because how your body works and heals is that your cells, if they become sick and damaged, they have to be replaced with healthy cells. As a matter of fact, I'm sure most of you are aware of the fact that we are not the same person, like physically, from a atomic or microscopic level that we were a year ago. Do you guys realize that? That every single organ, including your bones, right, the cells change. They just change at different rates depending on the tissue and the type of cells. So when your body produces new cells, which is programmed, you need nutrients to build that new cell. And also too, the living cell needs nutrients. So when you eat food and your digestive system breaks down that food, it's looking to break down that food so you can build new healthy cells. So that's why what you eat is so important. And so that's the job of your digestive system, to do so. So now let's talk about a microbiome. What's a microbiome? Well, your microbiome is really a community of microbes. So you guys realize that we have more bacteria, right, more fungi, however you want to pronounce that, and viruses than we do human cells. We have about 37 trillion, roughly, human cells. We have about 39 trillion microbes. So we are what we call a holobiont, which is really a combination of all these different organisms living together. So one author, this one medical doctor, he says it makes you kind of question, like, who's the host here? Right? You know what I mean? Like, you know, they're hosting us. So when we eat and when we do things, we're feeding the microbiome, and they play a very important role, right? Which, that's why this whole conversation about viruses and bacteria, there's so much ignorance behind it. It's really, to me, numbing and annoying. Because at the end of the day, if I were to test every single one of you right now and check your blood for different types, like pathogenic bacteria and viruses, I would find them in your blood. Did you know that? I would find viruses and bacteria in your blood and in your system right now that have the potential to make you sick. But they don't always make you sick, right? Because there's a system in the body. You guys understand that? So we have to know this so that we can make intelligent decisions about our health. And also, too, when people start saying things to you and you're watching the media and the news, there's a filter. Because most people don't know this information I'm about to share with you. And so if you don't have that filter to go, wait, does that make sense or doesn't make sense, you will be swayed by public opinion. And then you start to get into this mob mentality, right? And then you have people, really jumping on board. And that's where the conflict becomes. Because one of my favorite questions to ask people when they make statements about things about the health, I like to say, that's curious, that's interesting, right? Because you don't want to shoot people down. Where did you read that? Where did you get that? My whole thing is that I'm going to ask you to defend your position. If you make a statement, right, I'm curious, and especially if I know that it's wrong, please defend it. And it's not so that I can embarrass you, so to make you think. Are you saying that because somebody else did? Or did you do your research? Right? So the microbiome is very important. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And so the microbiome is very important because it's implicated in your immune health. A big chunk of your immune system is in your gut. It has to do with your emotions because hormones like serotonin, you've heard of serotonin, right? So serotonin is the hormone that helps to regulate your mood. So when someone is depressed, right, they give them drugs that prevent the uptake of serotonin in your body. Because the whole idea, the theory is that when you're depressed, because it's associated with lower levels of serotonin, as opposed to finding the cause, the solution is, well, you know what? If it's you're depressed and we notice that your serotonin levels are low, let's go ahead and do this. Let's block the uptake of serotonin, which naturally occurs, right? Because it breaks down and it regenerates. Let's block that so you have more serotonin in your bloodstream so that you can be happier longer. I mean, that's essentially how it works. But 70% of that is produced in the gut. So do you think that if you have poor nutrition and other things that disrupt your gut and the health of your gut, do you think it's going to affect the production of serotonin in your body? Yes, it will. So if you're taking, antidepressants, I'm not telling you not to, but then you go out there and you still, live however you want to, can you see why you'll never heal? And you'll have to depend on those drugs all the time. So that's a little bit on the microbiome. So you need good bacteria in your body. We all understand that. And that's the whole point I'm trying to make here. So then there's this gut-brain connection. So what does that mean? Your central nervous system and your gut communicate together all the time. They do so physically, and they also do so through chemicals. So you have, as a matter of fact, your gut is considered the second brain. It produces neurotransmitters. Right? And neurotransmitters, those are the chemicals that allow brain cells and nerve cells to communicate. It produces lots of hormones. I'll give you another example of a hormone that's produced in the gut, GABA, G-A-B-A. And what that does is it's called an inhibitory neurotransmitter, but it's responsible for the feelings of fear and dread. When you have a big presentation to do, or you remember when you were in school and you had a test coming up, What did you feel if you were nervous? You felt what? Butterflies. It's because of that hormone, right? So it's not just like this mystical thing that's happening. It's because of your thoughts of dread and doubt, and you're unsure and you don't want to fail or you don't want to mess up. It triggers the release of that hormone in the gut, in the brain too, but in the gut, and that's why you get butterflies down there. See that? So that's just one example. So, and then when we look at gut and immunity, we have to now start talking about the fact that your bacteria in your gut communicates with your immune system. And it has to, because when you take in things that are unhealthy, or you have more bad bacteria than good bacteria, your body needs a way, your brain and your nervous system needs a way to know what's happening. So your gut, through the bacteria, will send signals to your brain to tell the immune system, hey, we've got a problem, we have intruders. And then the immune system kicks in, and this isn't a talk on immune system, but you have two immune systems in your body. One is called innate, and the other one's called adaptive. And the innate immune system, that's the one that's responsible for like your allergies. You know, when you sneeze and when you cough, or if you have an infection that's kind of taken hold in your body and you start to have like the runny nose, that's called the innate response. And the innate response is like this, it's like a hand grenade, right? The immune system says, okay, it's fast. It reacts really quickly because it's trying to attack the virus or the bacteria and get it out of your body. So that's why you have those symptoms. And then the adaptive immune system, that's your antibodies. And that takes about 10 to 14 days to really ramp up. And what's really cool is that your innate immune system, it buys the adaptive immune system enough time so the two communicate, right? And you actually have cells that flow through your blood, and it's a combination, it's actually groups of cells. It's neurons, so brain cells, immune cells, like white blood cells, okay? And then you have these other cells called glial cells, and they work together and they actually flow through your blood and your lymph system and the fluids of your body as an early detection system, looking for invaders, looking for viruses and bacteria, and they will attack them, and sometimes they'll attack them so quickly and so efficiently that you never have symptoms. Not only that, it can do it so quickly that the adaptive immune system never even has to act. So that's why you can actually be exposed to a virus or have bacteria, right, and test negative, or test positive and never get sick. That's how amazing your immune system is. And then you have, of course, the adaptive that comes online, and it starts to produce antibodies. And when it produces antibodies, and it's really cool because you have some cells in your immune system, their job, they're like generals. And their job is to actually monitor the situation and mobilize the other cells to tell them where to go. Then you have these other, I forget the names now, it's been a while, and then you have yet another set of cells, and their job, right, is to like educate other cells. So they learn all they can about the virus or the bacteria, right? Like what's on it, is there a spike protein, what are some of the identifying factors? And then they go back and they teach the rest of the immune system. And then you have some cells in your immune system called killer cells, and they're like special forces, and they run out, literally, all right, and they run out and they kill and attack. And then you have others that produce the antibodies. And those cells, I forget the number now, but you know, they have these little, the white blood cells that produce antibodies. They can do thousands of molecules of antibodies per second, thousands. And then you have your memory cells, and their job is to remember the virus, right? And it's so cool that not only do they now remember the virus that you've had, but now they actually can adapt faster the next time you're exposed. And if there's any variation to the virus, right, because it doesn't vary that much to where it's totally unrecognizable, the body can still adapt. That's why you can have like the flu season or the cold and have different strains, because it happens every flu season, right? It's never the same, but you don't necessarily get sick because your immune system says, you look familiar, you might be a little different, but you can't trick me. And it can respond. How cool is that, right? The gut is part of that. The gut helps with that. Any questions so far? So let's talk, no? Okay, so let's talk about the different sources of interference. So first of all, the concept of dysbiosis. What is dysbiosis? Dysbiosis is that imbalance in the gut bacteria that I talked about. Okay, so when you have an imbalance where you have more bad bacteria than good bacteria, it's called dysbiosis. And that will happen, again, we'll talk about the different reasons why that happens, but when you destroy the good bacteria, it allows the bad bacteria to proliferate. So part of the function of the good bacteria, obviously, is producing different chemicals and digesting food and all that sort of thing, but it's also to keep the bad bacteria in check, as well as viruses. So now, if the bad bacteria and if the good bacteria, and there's good viruses too, even though we're focusing on bacteria here, if they are depleted because of our lifestyle, it allows the bad microbes to proliferate, and that's what makes you sick. So it's actually an imbalance in your own body that allows you to be sick, right? So the mere presence of the bad bacteria or the bad virus is not enough to make you sick. It's always dependent on the host. So I would always say, especially when this whole pandemic started, I used to tell people, be a bad host. They go, what do you mean by that? Be a bad host. Because if you're a bad host, it's very difficult for these microbes to proliferate and make you sick. So how do you become a bad host? Right? By becoming healthier. And it's very difficult. Does that make sense? Right? Am I making sense all you got? Okay, great. Yeah, this is the one I want to talk about. Hypertension. So they've been able to show that when you have more bad bacteria than good bacteria, it can actually affect your heart health and your blood pressure. It also increases inflammation in your body when you have a proliferation of bad bacteria. Okay? So that's dysbiosis. So now, the allopathic approach, when you have a proliferation of bad bacteria, is to bomb the city. What do I mean by that? It means it says, okay, you have an infection, so we're going to throw a hand grenade at it. We're going to kill the bad bacteria, and those are your antibiotics. What's the problem with that? You kill the good bacteria also, right? That's why it's called a broad spectrum. Which, by the way, I'm reading this book called The Empire of Pain, and it's a story. It's really talking about the Sackler family. Have you guys ever heard of the Sackler family? Yeah. So the Sackler family, for those of you who don't know who they are, it's most people don't. They're one of the richest families in the world. Certainly here in the United States, I think they're worth about $14 billion. But they're the reason why we have a opioid epidemic in this country. Because there were three brothers who all became medical doctors, and Arthur, the oldest brother, he was a marketing genius. And so he's the one that really put Pfizer on the map, because Pfizer hired a company that he bought, an advertising company. And so he's the one that really made it, he set the industry standard for pharmaceutical sales reps, right? Where it started with like 8 of them. And their job was to go in and sell doctors on these medications, And so he was really creative. And so he coined the term broad spectrum. Broad spectrum is not a clinical term. It's not a scientific term. He just called it broad spectrum, right? So it was just because the antibiotics before were very specific. So they would treat like a certain bacteria. And then I think it was terramycin was the product that they came up with, the one company. And so he marketed it, and it was broad spectrum. So that's number one. And then later on, they came up with OxyContin, right? And of course, we know the story there. It made about $35 billion and killed about 450,000 Americans.
What's the name of the book again?
Empire of Pain. Okay?
Empire of Pain?
Pain. Empire of Pain. And so 450,000 people that died from that. And so if you look, you actually won't see their names a lot of places. You know where you see their names? When you look at like the Louvre in Paris, France, I think they've donated money to all, because they were very into the arts. So you'll see their names in a lot of buildings in New York and Manhattan, right? Because they donated a lot of money to arts and to, whether it be paintings and that sort of thing. So people think of them that way, but they don't realize where the money came from. And for the longest time, people didn't know. It was a mystery. You had to dig to find out where that money came from, right? And of course, now everybody knows about it. So, but anyways, that's the allopathic approach. So it's something like, for example, this paper talks about Helicobacter that causes ulcers or associated with ulcers. We got to watch that word cause. So they found in this paper that when they gave them antibiotics, people who had ulcers, to kill this bacteria, look what happened. It actually caused other problems in them. Because as it turns out, that that bacteria that we associate with ulcers actually helps to prevent other diseases in the body. So it serves a purpose, but once again, because we don't understand the purpose, we go, okay, every time I see this condition that we don't want, I notice this thing right here, so this might be the cause. It's like this. It's like saying every time I see a fire, there's a fire person. So firemen or women must cause fires, right? Every time I see a crime or a crime scene, I see police officers. So police officers must cause crimes. You see, so we take what's something that's really an association and we assign causal a relationship to it. And that's why we get ourselves in this situation. So now, when you kill these bacteria sometimes, you'll actually see, and those are your side effects, right? Side effects is this unintended consequence of trying to accomplish this goal, but wait a second, this thing actually does other things that we didn't know about, right? So it actually can make you sicker. Inflammation. We also know that inflammation is the root cause of all diseases. So whether it be heart disease or even autoimmune, we'll talk about this in a second, or cancer, you'll see that inflammation is right there. So when you have inflammation in the gut, for example, that's where you end up with things like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, right? You end up with things like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. It's all inflammation of the gut, and we'll talk about leaky gut here in a second, right? So leaky gut, we have about 4,000 square feet of intestines in our body. And so the leaky gut happens is that when there's a barrier in your digestive system, and the barrier is called a selective barrier or semi-permeable barrier. What that means is that it's programmed to allow certain micronutrients or certain things into your blood. But it's also meant to keep other things out. A lot of times it has to do with the size of the molecule or the electric charge of the molecule. But the point is that we are pre-programmed to say, okay, you are allowed in the blood and you're not. So what happens is when you damage the lining of your gut, it becomes more permeable. So it's like punching holes into, like, let's say you had like a cheesecloth, and that can strain certain things. But if you took a pen and you punch holes into it, now you're going to have a lot more things go through there, right? So that's what happens in leaky gut. And what ends up happening is that things that should not be in your blood end up in your blood. And so the innate intelligence of the body says, I just know that you're not supposed to be there. Even if it's something that's good, you're not supposed to be in the blood. So over time, guess what not over time, what the immune system does, the immune system says that shouldn't be here, so it actually starts to attack it. And that's where your autoimmune diseases come from. And of course, blood goes everywhere. So the blood, if it's in your joints, it could be one autoimmune disease. If it's if it's mostly your skin, it's going to be something else. So that's where you get into like your lupus and even Crohn's disease, which is autoimmune, and a whole slew of other autoimmune diseases. Does that make sense? So that's what your leaky gut is. And of course, no surprise, leaky gut comes from lifestyle, what you eat, what you drink, and even stress can cause leaky gut, emotional stress in your body. Okay? So now let's talk about symptoms of poor gut health. So a lot of people experience these, right? Upset stomach, unintentional weight changes. So that's hey, I'm working out, but I can't lose weight, right? I feel bloated all the time. That could be a gut health problem. I can't sleep properly. I have difficulty falling asleep or waking up. It could be a gut issue. Fatigue, I'm tired all the time. That's a big one. I get 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep, and I'm still tired by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm tired. That's another example. Food sensitivities, that's a big one, right? Today, we have our kids and everybody else sensitive to everything on the planet. That's not normal. We act like it is, but it's not normal, okay? And there also, too, how many of you guys have actually encountered this, where there are foods that you used to eat, and now you can't eat them? That's what happens, right? So all of a sudden, right, you have these food sensitivities because of the leaky gut. So that's why if you heal that, you can actually start to eat a lot of those foods and you don't have that reaction anymore, the inflammatory reaction. And of course, bloating, even skin problems. That's a big one. When you see people have like rashes and skin problems and acne and that sort of thing, it comes from the inside, right? It's really what's happening on the inside being displayed on the outside. But typically what happens? What do we do when we start to see a rash? We go and we get the cream, the cortisone, okay? but you're not fixing the problem. It's coming from the inside. I have a patient that her son started having like eczema, and I say, hey, let's start changing his diet. She started taking sugar out of the diet. Just what happens? It started clearing up. But if you don't understand this and make those changes, guess what happens? You put the cream on there, right? The cortisone, now that's going to affect your health too, okay? So just a few examples there. And so we have leaky gut. And so we talked about Crohn's disease, celiac disease. You've heard that, right? Which is an autoimmune disease where you have a sensitivity to gluten. By the way, most people have a sensitivity to gluten, right? And the reason being is because the grains that we have today, it's not the same as the ancient grains that we had before. And so because a lot of the grains that we have today are genetically modified, the gluten concentration is actually higher. And that's one of the reasons. And gluten is the thing that makes your dough sticky, right? So it's a protein and it keeps it together. And so what happens is it can damage the lining of your gut, right? There's these things called zonulin, and you can damage those and it can cause punch holes into your gut because of the gluten, and now you have leaky gut. That's why if you remove gluten from your diet for a period of time, it allows it to heal. Right? But again, but if you start to eat ancient grains, that doesn't happen. You can go, it's really interesting. You can go to different countries in the world that still have like good, wholesome food, grain, and eat the bread from those places, and you don't have the same reaction, right? Because it's not the same thing, because a lot of those places may still have ancient grains. Question?
So with the wheat that we have in stores, do you suggest that we don't eat the wheat or like do research on what's a good?
Well, we're going to talk about some ancient grains. So the answer is no, don't eat it, because a lot of it's genetically modified. Not only that, but when you read the package of the bread, like you see what's in there, right? There's a bunch of chemicals. There's you have preservatives. You have artificial sweeteners. Like traditionally, bread is not supposed to be as sweet as it is. You realize that? Like it's not. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to taste. But we've developed such a palate for sugar, which, by the way, the food industry understands that. They understand that. And they also understand how addictive sugar can be. So if you just sweeten everything, right, it just tastes better, and you buy more of it. But your palate can change. Because once you change your diet, your taste buds, the concentrations, your body's dynamic. So as opposed to having a proliferation of taste buds for sugar, they'll start to decrease. It's the same thing with salt. So now it's funny because I always joke that, in Toronto, we have this company called Tim Hortons, like a Starbucks. And I think a lot of them are now here in the United States, in like Detroit, bordering cities. And so I swore that was like the best coffee on the planet. Well, the reason why it was the best coffee on the planet, because every time I got coffee back then, I did double-double. You know what that means? Right, Chuck does. Double cream, double sugar. And how many people understand that back, like for me, it wasn't even raw sugar. I didn't even know the difference. So it was the white sugar, which is even more potent, right? Double. Oh, this coffee's so good. And then I started, I moved here, started becoming part of Max Living. So I would drink organic coffee, black, no cream, no sugar. It was a transition. And so I went back to Toronto one time and I went and just got the black coffee. Terrible. It was nasty. I'm like, this is horrible. How did I like this? Right? Because I had such a palate for sugar, I thought it was good. So now, and my wife, she would kill, she probably wouldn't care. When I first met my wife, when I go to their house, they used to make this huge container of juice, right? So you get the canned concentrate, dump it in this big container, and add a bunch of water. Diluted the crap out of it. But then, literally, she killed me, and it's on video too. I hope she never sees this. They had the sugar jar of white sugar, and they had a scoop, like a big scoop, like the ones you see on the Kellogg's corn, and scoop sugar in it, and that's why it tasted so good. But now today, I would be sick if I drank that. The taste alone is repulsive. So you can change. For those of you who say that you have a sweet tooth, you can change, all right? So let's move along. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. What does that mean? In the small intestines, it's another form of dysbiosis, but it's in the small intestines. And what can happen is, again, you have a proliferation of the bad bacteria that overtakes your gut. So when that happens, you'll start to see things like watery stool, right? You start to hear that gurgling sound, kind of like bubble in your...
Form of diarrhea?
Yeah, pretty much. It doesn't have to be diarrhea, but it's very watery. It's extremely loose all the time. But it's also associated with, like, you know, the abdominal sounds. You're gassy, right? Flatulence. We're all adults here. You're farting all the time. All the time, right? No matter what. That's another sign of symptom. Milk intolerance, right? That's one of them. Okay, you drink milk, you're bloated, you got to go to the bathroom. And this is, and watch this. This is in the face of a normal GI workup. So you can go to your doctor and get, GI test, and it could be negative. And they go, well, there's nothing wrong with you, right? Which means there's no pathology. Doesn't mean, so we always talk about function. Because before you have disease, you have dysfunction. So disease is a lack of function. So you don't want to treat the disease, you want to address the dysfunction in the body. What was that? Oh, you're not in school? No, that's fine, right? That's funny. Can I go to the bathroom? No, hold it. That's funny. Okay? So, yeah, you guys get the point there. And then you have the IBS. Right? So IBS, a lot of the same symptoms, very similar. Bloating, chronic diarrhea, constipation is something that you'd see. You may see normal x-rays. Your colonoscopy might be normal. That's another thing. You're having all these digestive issues, it hurts, your stool doesn't look right, you do a colonoscopy and it's negative. See? So I don't know what to do. Gut health issues, IBS. More than 50% of IBS people, patients or people with IBS, have this problem. See that? So once again, you want to make sure that you want to address these things. Am I making sense here? A lot of this is going to sound somewhat redundant, which is probably not a bad thing. It sinks in a little bit better. So here we go. Okay. So is it possible to heal?
I hope so. We wouldn't be sitting here.
Right. It is. Good. Right, Michelle. Right? So like I said, healing is the natural state of the body. So I really want to spend a couple of minutes on here, maybe a little bit more than a couple of minutes, because it's our definition of health that's the problem. Right? Because right now, the definition of health that we have is if I feel good, I'm healthy. See that? That's not health. Health is not how you feel, because you can feel good and still be sick. Right? For many people with heart disease, the first symptom is what? A heart attack. So it's not about how you feel, even though you want to feel good. So it's all about the amount of energy and vitality that you have in your body. So, zero, limited function, no function, 0% vitality, you're dead. I would hope that every single person wants to be on the far right, optimal health. But there's a continuum there, there's a gradient, right? And so if you look right here, you'll see that this is where most people live here. Right? Where it says feeling no active symptoms. So if you judge your health by how you feel, and that's your definition of health, two things happen. This is right here. So you never change anything, you become reactive. So you never look at your lifestyle because you feel fine. See that? But you're not. That's number one. And number two, what happens is you start to lose your health and you start to not feel great. Because your definition of health is how you feel, the first thing you will do is try to do something to allow you to do what? Feel better. Because if that's your definition of health, it's like, well, I just have to feel better. Here comes your drug. But if you're looking at function, right, which is all the principle of chiropractic, is how is your body functioning, then no matter how you feel, if you're measuring function, if you have dysfunction, but you feel great, it's only a matter of time before you feel what? Bad. And so that becomes your focus. What do I need to do to be healthy and to be functional? Like if you think about a plant, I always like to use the analogy of a plant. If you have a plant in your house and the plant is dying, what's the first thing you would do? You water it. Why? Because plants need water. And if that didn't work, what's the next thing you would do? Right? So you're gonna, because plants need what? They need sunlight. And then if that worked, but it still wasn't complete, the third thing you would do most people don't get this, is to check the what? Check the soil. Because you know it needs healthy soil. Right, exactly. So why is it that if your plant isn't doing well or dying, why is it that you don't do stuff like, take it to a hospital? Right? A plant hospital. Or how about if you paint the leaves, right? They're brown. Why don't we paint it green so it looks good? Like, you get what I'm saying, right? You understand that? So the principles are still the same. It's the same principle where if a plant isn't healthy, you go, well, what is it missing that it needs? It's the same thing with your human body. But we don't take the same approach, right? Am I kind of shifting your paradigm a little bit and how you're thinking there? So we want to get you all the way over to that side. And so we're going to talk about how you do that. How do you get to the other side? Okay? So that's where the 5 essentials come in. How do you heal the gut with the 5 essentials? Well, here's the mindset. The first thing is that, here's what it looks like. When you decide to take responsibility for your thoughts, right, and your paradigm of health, and when you take responsibility for how you're living, right, and how you think, that's what it looks like to be living the 5 essential lifestyle, right? When you decide, hey, I am going to put life-giving foods in my body as opposed to foods that rob me of my health. That's what it looks like. When you decide that I am going to not live a sedentary lifestyle, but I'm going to move to make sure that my body's in motion and I'm exercising and I'm getting the oxygenation of my tissues and my cells, right? That's what it looks like to live the 5 essentials. When you decide that you're going to avoid man-made toxins in what you put on your body and what you take into your body, when you decide to do that, see, that's living the 5 essentials. When you decide to honor and value the master control system, which is your nervous system, which is linked to your spine, when you honor that, that's the 5 essentials. That's how you heal, right? That's what it's all about. So that's why we came up with the LRQ. The LRQ is really meant to see where you are in the 5 essentials, to see if there's some things you need to dial up or dial down. So when you take this, and who's taken the LRQ before? Okay, so a couple of people. So all of you should take it, right? And when you take it, what it does is it kicks the response back to myself and Emily. And so we can get to see now where you are in the 5 essentials. We get to see your lifestyle, right? And also, too, it's very sobering when you take it, because you start to see, it's like you're looking inward. You're going, oh, wow, I never really realized that I ate this much of this or I didn't do this. So it creates an awareness in you, but it lets us see where you are with the 5 essentials. And then we can sit with you and just say, hey, listen, you're doing great here. Check the box. Awesome. Down here, not so much, right? So these are some recommendations that you might need to really get you up to that point. And that's how you're really going to start to heal. So we'll skip this right here. So there's really 3 steps to heal and recover. You have to find the cause, right? I think I've hit that, nailed that pretty well today. You got to find the cause. Why is it that I have digestive issues? Why is it that I have bloatedness? Why is it that I'm so fatigued? So you got to find the cause. Then the second thing, you have to address it. So once you find the cause, you can't not do anything. What do I do to address the interference? And then the third thing is that now you got to restore vitality to your body. So find the cause, okay, right? Remove the interference, and then you have to return yourself to vitality. So what does that look like? So first of all, we know that the standard American diet is horrible. What does that look like? Standard American diet is cheeseburgers, right? Now, you can have good meat, don't get me wrong, right? Processed foods. It looks like this. You go to the grocery store and you spend most of your time up and down the aisles as opposed to the outside. Because what's on the outside? Right. That's what it looks. That's your right. Sodas, right? You guys know what it is. I don't have to tell you guys. Chemicals, Twinkies, processed foods, right? Things that by the way, just because it's called a food doesn't mean, food. Food doesn't have ingredients, right? Dishes may, but food, think about it. Food, like an apple doesn't have ingredients. You don't pick up an apple and go, yeah, let's see what's in this apple, right? Technically. So the more ingredients you have, if you pick up a box, the more things you see in that box, the further away it is from its original source. So think about that. So that's number one. So poor nutrition or lifestyle. So foods to avoid. This won't be a surprise to anybody, right? Sugar and artificial sweeteners. Do I really need to go into this? I don't, okay? So sugars and artificial sweeteners. We know it causes diabetes, inflammation, cancer, heart disease. It destroys your gut. We talked about gluten, okay? So when it comes to gluten, we talked about that. You'll find it in your grains like rye and wheat and barley, okay? So that's the other thing. So now, conventional meats. So meat in itself isn't bad. Like red meat isn't bad, even though I think we eat too much of it. But your red meat, if you ask a 5-year-old what cows eat, what would they tell you? Not in this country, they don't.
Yeah.
Right? They don't. They feed them like grains. Like cows aren't designed to eat grains. So when a cow eats grains and candy bars, I've seen all kind of ridiculous stuff in the feedlots, you're making the animal sick. You're throwing off the omega 3 to 6 fatty acid ratio, which should be anywhere from 1 to 2 to 1 to 4. So for every molecule of omega 3, you should have 2 to 4 of omega 6. There's a balance. Well, when you feed a cow grain, their ratios could be as high as 1 to 200. You know what I mean? So it produces inflammation in the cow, and then they have to give them antibiotics, and there you go. Well, you are what you ate, right? You're not just what you ate. So now if you eat that meat, guess what it does? It throws off your fatty acid ratios. It could be as high as 1 to 50. So now the higher the ratio, the more inflammation you have in your body. See? Not to mention any toxins and antibiotics, that's now in your body. That's going to create inflammation. That inflammation now leads to what? Things like heart disease. And so again, we go back to the fire department and the fire, right? Red meat, heart disease, red meat must be bad. It's a type of red meat. Okay, it's a type of red meat. So conventional meats, how the chicken is raised, that's very important. Fish, wild-caught fish. Believe it or not, in fish farms, they feed them whatever. Things that innately a fish doesn't eat. Like, what an abomination is happening to our food supply, okay? And so we're number one. Damaged and altered fats. So again, it used to be that we were told that fats were bad. As a matter of fact, doctors are still saying that, right? Doctors are still telling patients that if you want to lose weight and you want to be healthy, you need a low-fat diet, right? Or how about this? If you eat too much fat, you're going to lose muscle mass. I heard that recently, right? Didn't we hear that recently, Emily? That's not true, okay? Fat doesn't make you fat. Sugar makes you fat, number one. It's not the fat. And there's healthy fats. So when you take damaged fats, that's what causes your body, right? Because fats become rancid if they're damaged. So those are your vegetable oils. Those are your canola oils, right? Which isn't even a real thing. There's no canola plant. So when you put those things in your body, margarine's man-made. Right, it's not butter. So when you put that stuff in your body, it causes free radicals, which damage your cells. See, and once you damage your cells, you damage your DNA. Now you're lining yourself up for things like cancer because you just damage your DNA, among other things. That's why you need antioxidants, which your body naturally produces, by the way, antioxidants. The sad thing is that some of the same things that we eat that destroy our bodies and cause these things also can destroy the natural antioxidants in your body. So not only do you cause a problem when you live that lifestyle, you're actually damaging the system that's designed to help you get out of it. So it's a double whammy, okay? So damaged fat. So butter is good, especially if it's coming from grass-fed animals. Olive oil is good, right? Avocado oil. I cook with avocado oil all the time. If I'm grilling, making eggs, I use butter or avocado oils. If you have a salad, for me, I'll put the avocado oil on my salad, and then I put some lemon juice on there, or lime juice. Now, 10, 15, 20 years ago, did I do that? No. I put Thousand Islands on that bad thing, and that big boy. You know what I mean? Thousand Islands, ranch, right? Oh, this is a great salad. Just put that, I put that on there.
That's sugar on there.
I can't do that today. So you can change, right? So for me, it's a salad, some oil, and some lime juice, and some salt. And it's great, right? So those are healthy fats. So fats aren't bad. It's damaged fats that are bad. Alcohol, listen, I like a good glass of wine like the other guy. Right? So I'm not going to stand here in front of you and say I don't drink alcohol. I do. okay? But the reality of you have to understand that it's toxic. It's very toxic. It just is. It destroys your cells. It can change the microbiome by destroying the healthy cells. It just is. It can cause inflammation in your body. It's toxic. It can damage your cells. So it's a real problem, okay? Now, red wine tends to be the best out of all of them, right? Because they have what's called this plant compound called a polyphenol. And polyphenol helps in your digestion, and it helps to support the good gut bacteria. So you can have a nice glass of red wine, ideally organic, and what's called biodynamic. All that means is that biodynamic is it's a source from organic farm on steroids, right? So I'm talking, they're meticulous about everything, about the soil, about the type of grapes, about everything. Every condition is to its original form. And so when you go to buy wine, sometimes you'll see some brands out there that will tell you that it's organic or biodynamic is what it's called, right? So that does make a difference. Good. Any questions about alcohol? No? Let's move. All right. So who's heard about the Max Living Nutrition Plans? So all of you should have heard of it. You know why? You know that book called Align Your Health that you got when you became a patient? And then Emily, for sure, and myself would ask you, have you read chapter 4? See, chapter 4. There you go. Thank you, Chuck. Right? And in there it talks about the different plans. So you've got these plans are meant to be sustainable and it's natural. So you've got your core plan, which I think is what comes up next. And so, but the foundation of all this is you want to eat food by God, not by man, right? Or by science. Number 1, skip the sugars and alternatives, and count toxicants, not calories, right? So because a lot of people, so if you're counting calories, here's the problem with counting calories. If I get like a handful of almonds, let's say, okay? And let's say that's 22 calories. And then I have like a Twinkie, and that's 22 calories. If you count your calories, you're like, well, let me get the Twinkie, because I'm at 1,800 calories this week. I'm good. You see the problem with that? So not all calories are equal, and that's the problem. Okay, so counting calories isn't good, but looking at sugar is good, and looking at the toxicants, that's good, right? So remove toxicity from your body. So that's the core foundation. You got the core plan. You can see it right there. So grains are a part of the core plan in moderation. So it's not that we say don't eat grains, but we want you to pick healthy grains, or what we call ancient grains, right? Like your quinoa and stuff like that, okay? Whole grains, fruits and vegetables, plant-based. If you're going to have your fruits mainly in the morning, not late in the evening. So your fruit should be like a dessert. That's how you should treat fruits. You have your meal, and then you're like, I have a sweet tooth. Because that's really what God intended, right? That's why he put fruits on the planet. That was your dessert, right? He didn't put apple pies on the planet. Like, there's no apple pie tree, as good as they taste, right? So it's like, hey, I have a sweet tooth. It used to be that you would have an apple, or have some strawberries, or have some whatever it might be, right? So that's what we need to go back to, okay? So top 5 to eat routinely. The advanced plan. Sorry, I skipped ahead too quickly. So let's talk about the advanced plan. It's like the core plan, but now you remove the grains out of there, and a lot of the fruits. And the reason why you do that, because we recommend the advanced plan. Certainly for every single person, you should do it from time to time. I know these guys are doing it right now, and you got like 1 week left, right? And I've done it. It really is an anti-inflammatory diet. So if you're suffering with any type of condition, you should do the advanced plan, because you're removing the causes of inflammation from your body, which is the root cause of a lot of diseases. Make sense? And you can do it for 30 days, give it a try, 60 days. So if you are a sugar junkie, it means that your body has learned to burn sugar preferentially over fats. We're really designed to be fat burners, not sugar burners. And so by removing the sugar from your diet, including a lot of the fruits, it allows your body to switch from a sugar burner to a fat burner. It's kind of like burning wood into your house that produces soot. That's the sugar. That's like burning sugar. But if it's natural gas, it burns cleanly. That's fat. So it produces a lot less free radicals if you're burning fat for fuel, right? Which doesn't damage your cells, and you're going to be healthier. So that's why. So your body is going to be in that healing mode when you're on the advanced plan. Give me 1 second there. When you're in the advanced plan, okay? And so the fruits that you can have, and you can read about it, but people always ask, well, what fruits can I have? We always recommend things like berries because they have a low glycemic index, so they don't break down as quickly into simple sugars. Granny Smith apples are great for the same reason. Grapefruits, right? Again, in moderation, and avocados, right? Which is a healthy fat also. Question?
You answered it.
Oh, okay. So those are the type of fruits but again, if you read chapter
4.
in the Align Your Health book, it answers all that for you. So that's why I'm not going into a lot of detail. So the 3 R's of gut healing. First, you've got to remove the thing that's insulting you, right? That's causing the insult. So the advanced plan does that. If you follow these rules, you're going to remove almost every single thing. Now, obviously, toxicity is another issue. So it could be some of the things that you put on your skin, and here's another thing that could damage your gut: medications, right? Unfortunately, we kind of hit on that with the antibiotics, but it damages your body, right? Because all medications, all drugs are toxic. Okay, so you want to remove that, and then you want to repair, right? And so you have to repair the lining of the gut. And so when it comes to repairing, that's why, like in Max Living, we have Nutraceuticals. So we have digestive enzymes. We have what's called Gut Renew. And they're all designed to help renew and heal the gut. Okay, so that we actually have a gut health bundle through Max Living that we recommend. I think it's 4 different nutraceuticals in there that are all designed to address this: renew and heal your gut. And Gut Renew is one of them. Digestive enzyme is another one. There's one called Pure Path Fiber that helps to provide fiber in your body, right? Which again, it's going to help with your digestive system. So that's what you want to do there. And then these things right here, you find those in Gut Renew. So these are some different foods that have been shown to help to heal your gut. Things like licorice and slippery elm and other nutrients. So you'll find those in the Gut Renew. Right? These nutraceuticals are all whole food based, which is important because if it's whole food based and comes from natural sources, your body can break it down easier. So, supplements are all rated. They're not all the same. And it's truly a case you get what you pay for. So when someone comes and they say, oh yeah, but I paid only like $5 for this from like Walmart or something, hey, you get what you pay for. What you now have is expensive pee is what you now have. Right? Because your body can't assimilate that stuff. I remember there was a time when they were looking at a lot of the supplements on the shelves, and they all had like clay and glass fillers, right? So a lot of times if you have like, let's say, I don't know, a big one was like chondroitin sulfate, for your joints. So if it said like 500 milligrams, you really had less than that in there. A lot of it was fillers. So you may have like 350 milligrams. So you get what you pay for when it comes to nutraceuticals and supplements. Does that make sense? All right. So and digestive enzymes. What that will do is help to break down the food. Because when you eat raw food, especially like fruits and vegetables, they're providing enzymes that your body needs to break down food. And you're also feeding your healthy bacteria when you eat fruits and vegetables, because that's what they consume. So you're really eating for your bacteria and your germs in your body, right? But when you eat bad food, then your body has to work harder now to break down the food. And it's even difficult to assimilate that. So when you have digestive enzymes, it'll help you break that food down. Now, do you need to be on it the whole time? Not necessarily, especially when you start to change your diet and you start to heal, you'll see a less need for some of these nutraceuticals. I talked about the Pure Path fiber before. So again, that's going to help lower things like LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol. And when I do a talk on cholesterol, you'll see why I said so-called, but that's one of the benefits of it. When you take Pure Path, it's a fiber. Omega-3 fatty acids, we talked about that. So that's something that you need. It's important for all the cells in your body. It's important for your brain because your brain has a lot of fat in there. All your cells have fat, so you want healthy fats in your cells, right? You don't want bad fats, so omega-3 is very important. It's also an anti-inflammatory. So a lot of it will come from fish, but a lot of people don't like fish. Who likes fish? I love fish. I had red snapper last night. But a lot of people don't like fish, right? If that's you, then this is everyone should be on this because most people don't get enough omega-3s anyways. But this is definitely something that you can get from your food and your fatty fish. This just talks about the fact that when you have omega-3 in your diet, It's an anti-inflammatory, right? So it helps to reduce the inflammation, okay? Then the other thing you want to do is now re-inoculate. What does that mean? So now that you've healed your gut and you're in the process of healing your gut, the other thing that you want to do is now repopulate your gut with the healthy bacteria. So that's where probiotics come in, right? So probiotics, that's your good bacteria that you're now going to repopulate your gut with. And there's different types. So we have one nutraceutical called Probiotic 50B, and it has 10 of the top probiotics or healthy bacteria that you find out there based on research. Because you never want to take just one type of bacteria or probiotic, because you can actually have an overgrowth of that. So you want to have a variety of different bacteria of probiotics that you put into your body. And from time to time, you want to switch it up. Because again, there's a balance, right? So that's what you want to re-inoculate that. So again, the advanced plan will do that. And then when you do a probiotic, it will do that. You've heard of prebiotics too, right? So prebiotics is actually the food. So when you have like the Pure Path fiber, that would be considered a prebiotic. When you're eating salads and vegetables and fruits, those are technically prebiotics. Prebiotics they're the foods that the probiotics or the healthy bacteria need to thrive. So those are your prebiotics. Make sense? And there you go, right on cue. Probiotics. And then this one here talks about the fact that they use probiotics to treat type 2 diabetes. Okay, so because again, right, a big part of the purpose of your gut is part of your nervous system, is part of your immune system, but also helps to regulate your insulin levels and your metabolism. Okay, and it's also anti-inflammatory. So when they use probiotics and they found that it helped, right, helped tremendously. And then we talked about your prebiotics, right? So your food should be colorful. You guys get that? Like if your food looks like this wall right here on the doors, it's a problem. So your food should be colorful. That's how it should look. Isn't that beautiful? Like, so how many of you guys, like when you have a really good meal and you've got a bunch of colors on your plate, don't you feel like a sense of pride? Like you're doing something good? Like when I have a plate of food, but you know what I mean? I feel like I want to take a picture of it, put it on Instagram. And I have done that actually. You know, because innately, it's almost like innately your body knows, right? Your brain knows this is good for me. All these different colors. And there's a reason why it's like that too, because visually it's attractive, right? So again, God in his infinite wisdom, right? He created everything and put it together. So visually this is attractive. We're attracted to the yellow banana or the green or red apple, right? It's pleasing to our eyes, right? So for some reason, my mind went back to Genesis. Eve in the garden, never mind. Yeah, anyways. So that's your gut health bundle that I talked about. Okay, so if you have gut health issues, this is where you should start. 2 things you want to do, like I said, you want to change your diet. Okay, so if you do the standard American diet, start with the core, get used to that. Once you get used to that, then you can move to the advanced plan. Okay, and then go back and forth and watch what happens, and then use something like this bundle to help support it. Man, what's your life change? Yeah, what's your life change? Okay, daily essentials. This is everybody should be on this. Not everybody needs. I'll put it back. I saw you taking a picture. Not everybody might need this, but every single person needs this. So those daily essentials. And I used to be traditionally horrible at taking supplements. I'll be honest with you, horrible, because I'm not into taking pills, right? And so I would forget. I would do like the detox that we have, and then there's a morning and evening. I would take the morning and forget the evening. So by the time I'm done, like one bottle's empty and the other one's half, right? Like I'm not using it right. And then they came out with this, which is beautiful because it's really a packet. And in there, it has all the daily nutraceuticals that you need or supplements. So you've got your vitamin D3 in there with probiotics, right? You've got your magnesium in there, which is very important for your nervous system and bone development. You've got your B12, which is important for your nervous system, right? As well as hormone production. You also have, what else? You have the multi in there. So you have the multivitamin. So there's one for men, one for women. I think there's one more thing in there that I'm probably forgetting. Omegas, yeah, how could I forget, right? So it's all the things that we need on a daily basis. So now I have it on my kitchen counter. I can just take a packet, rip that thing open. Now I don't have a problem taking everything and dumping it into my mouth and swallowing. Some people can't do that. You need one at a time. Or if I'm in a rush, I can literally take it, put it in my pocket, and then when I get to the office, in between adjusting you guys, right, I can down it. So it's become so convenient for me, for someone like me, right? So, but every single person should be taking that for obvious reasons. And then I want to spend a couple of minutes just talking about the max metabolics. So everything I told you here is just very general, and if you do that, you're going to see some healing. But then if you have a problem, or even if you don't have a problem that you know of right now, this is really about testing and not guessing. So this is really designed, this is really what people call functional medicine or functional nutrition, because we realize that sometimes you have very specific needs and deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies, bacterial overgrowth, certain toxicity issues that need to be pinpointed and need to be addressed specifically. And so this allows us to really see what exactly is your problem. So it will test different biomarkers, and I'll go through a few of them here in a second. And it's really a urine test and a blood test. And so what we do is that there's a whole kit right here. So, oh, it's here on the floor, right? So it looks like this. They send some cups that you pee in, right? And you could take so we're all going to do it in the office, right? Because I'm curious. You know, as much as I try to live a healthy lifestyle, I'm not perfect. So guess what? I want to know. So we're all going to do it in the office because I want to know if there's anything in me that's not functioning right. I want to know. Because I tell you what I don't want. I don't want a diagnosis that catches me off guard. I don't want that. And this happened, you know, to some ML doctors. So, and this really came out, this whole thing came out of one of our doctors who got really sick. And it's a husband and wife duo. And before we started doing this, there are other medical doctors around, like in Spain and here in this country that do stuff like this. And so they literally, you know, took his blood and all this stuff that we're doing and sent it to this one doctor in Spain, and he would analyze it. And he was really, like, this doctor was really, really sick, like on death's door sort of deal. And they sent all this stuff away, cost thousands of dollars to get the testing and everything else. But he got his health back, right? And he was that guy, his wife tells a story, like he didn't want to take any supplements. He's like, this is not going to work. But you started to see his health come back. And so that's what really got her in their office doing this sort of thing. And then so now ML tried it before, and the system wasn't very good, but now they've really refined it. And so what happens is there's a lab called Genova that we work with. And so once you take, you know, do the blood and the urine, they'll analyze it, and then they send it back to us so we can look at it. We have a functional medicine doctor that also is part of our team in Max Living, that she also takes a look at it. And then she makes recommendations, and we look at the recommendations. And so now we have something very specific for you that may look different than it is for you, because your profiles are going to be different. You're looking at what's called a metabolic profile, right? So that's what it does. I'm really excited about it because over the years, I've found it more and more difficult for people to get healthy because we have so many different things that bombard our health today, okay? You know, whether it be, like I said, the nutrition, the sedentary lifestyle, all the toxins that we are exposed to, like in the air and everything, every product, right? More and more people are on medications, which in and of itself is a toxic, right? And now we're trying to get the entire country vaccinated. So whatever you believe about that, that's your business. But you need to know that, guess what? There's toxicity loads involved in that too. So all those things all together bombarding your health, it's more and more difficult today to get people well. 5 out of 6 Americans are dying from heart disease or cancer. You know how you're supposed to, like, this is how you're supposed to die, okay? You go to sleep one night and you don't wake up because you've reached your genetic potential, as opposed to waking up in the morning with a disease. Like, how is it that a lot of us find ourselves waking up in the morning in the last few years of our lives, right, on some bed in a nursing home, sometimes unable to speak, take care of yourself, wearing diapers? Like, how does that happen? That's not part of our natural design, right? How is it that many of us will wake up in the morning and be like, you know what, I'm bankrupt. I have nothing because all the money that I had for my retirement and to do all these wonderful things, I'm actually spending it on sickness and disease. How does that happen? See that? So we have to get back to what God intended. That's my belief. And so, but anyways, with the testing, we get to see exactly what it is. And so the next few slides just really talks about what I just talked about, right? Looking at the deficiencies so we can see what biomarkers are off. And so I'll give you an example of what that looks like. Oh yeah, one of the other things that it can do, which we're not going to start with that, but we may add later on, is genetic testing. And so that's a slippery slope. Here's why. The genetic testing is all about being able to see where you may have a predisposition. Not so that you can now go, oh my goodness, I'm going to have cancer or heart disease. It's so that you can govern yourself accordingly. You can go, okay, if I have a predisposition for this thing, I really need to clean up my lifestyle. It just allows you to now know that, hey, I can't slip here. It also, explains why some people can like break a lot of rules, right? And nothing seems to happen. You break one rule and your life falls apart, right? So that's something that we'll probably add eventually. But right now is the blood spot and the urine analysis, okay? And so this is an example of what it would look like. So, fatty acid metabolism, carbohydrate metabolism. So, why am I tired all the time? Why is it that when I eat, I'm so sensitive to certain carbs? Why is that? Looking at neurotransmitters. I'm not producing this neurotransmitter. No wonder I feel this way. No wonder I'm having this reaction. But now you know. So as opposed to medicating it and taking a drug, now it may be a lot of times certain supplements to support that, right? To get the body back to baseline, plus nutritional changes, right? Plus, of course, the lifestyle that we're talking about, right? Sounds good? Right? And so in terms of, this is an example. So because we just started, we don't have any testimonials of our own, right? So we have about 6 or 7 people, I think, from the last talk who are doing it, and that number is growing. We're going to have testimonials. So one of my colleagues who started to do this first, Dr. Nick Wilson, he was talking about this one pastor that his health was falling apart. He had a big church in Indianapolis, and he just found he had to push through his sermons, right? He didn't have the energy. He was feeling horrible. And then it even started to affect his congregation and his church attendance, because they started to notice, man, Pastor Tony is just not the same. I'm not, how we can be sometimes in church. I'm not getting the word, I'm not getting fulfilled, and we leave. And it started to fall apart. And he started to do this. And he was a chiropractic patient. It wasn't like he was doing a lot of the right things, but also he had a lot of problems. And so he went through this, totally changed his life, So that's one testimonial in addition to the other doctor. But so we don't have any yet, I'll be honest with you, but we will, right? We're going to have some great testimonials. Okay, so in terms of cost, so the Genova says that typically this should be about $2,000, right? And so I've had some people, last time I did the talk, I think it was Violet Satchel that said she did something like this several years ago, and the testing was more than $2,000. But because Max Living, we're a whole group, okay? So what we've done, they've given us a discount on the kits for ourselves. So for us, it's going to be $750 is how much the testing is going to be, which again, in the world of functional testing, apparently that's very low. I didn't know anything about it, but just doing some research, because I wanted to research it to see what it was. And so what I'm doing, because it's brand new, for the first month, so really we started 2 weeks ago. So for the next 2 weeks, I said for the first 2 weeks, first 4 weeks, we're going to do a reduced cost of $599 or $600, right? For anyone who's interested in getting the testing. Okay, so $599. So you can just talk to Emily about that if it's something that you want to do. So we're going to fly through this part right here now, because a lot of this is, I wanted to spend more time on the front end. Any questions right now? Anyone need to go to the bathroom real quick before we kind of go into the second half and finish this up? Everybody's good? All right, well, look at you guys holding your bladder. Well, I got to go. No, I'm kidding. I don't. But I do need some water, though. I'm kind of dry. You can hear me drinking in there? What? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. We are recording this, aren't we? So those of you watching this later, I had some water. So, you go take a water break. So exercise. First of all, we have a genetic requirement to exercise. You guys hear me? It's genetically required. Like, we're programmed to move. That's why we have all these joints, right? We're supposed to move. It doesn't mean that you have to be like an Olympian and go run a marathon. It doesn't mean that. But it means you do have to move your body. We know that exercise improves your health tremendously. It reduces all-cause mortality significantly. I think I read one study a long time ago that walking 30 minutes 3 times a week, I think, don't quote me on that, it was a long time ago, decreases all-cause mortality, meaning death from various causes, by as much as 70%. 70%, right? It also aids in digestion because when you massage your... How many people have ever gone to the bathroom and you're like, man, it's not, it's a little challenging, and you massage your gut? Just me? We too cool to be honest, right? Yeah, like you start massaging your gut, right, to help the flow. Sorry, guys. but that's it. They can't see you guys, only the back of your head, so no one knows, right? But again, when you exercise, there's a massaging of the gut when you exercise that actually helps digestion, right, and help you go to the bathroom. Right, so that's just one example. So you got to exercise, right? So, and again, here's another thing too. Here's another concept I want to talk about, is that never look at these 5 essentials as a way to treat the body or treat a problem, right? Because what happens is the same mindset as, you know what? I got a high school reunion coming up, and I need to lose 20 pounds or 30 pounds, right? And you go hard. Right? Because I've had this, right? Okay, doc, I want to do the 30-day challenge. I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat right because I want to fit into this bathing suit. And or I want to look good at my high school reunion. How many of us know that that's the wrong reason? It's the wrong reason, because this is what happens. What happens when you lose the 20 pounds and you show up to your high school reunion and it's over, right? Bless you. You check your goal. Now what? Like you said. Because your why is gone, right? So this is a lifestyle, guys. This is a school of thought. It's a philosophy. It's a way of living. I just want to drill that into you because I'll be honest with you. I am trying to create warriors. We are trying to create what we call 5 essential warriors. That's what we're trying to do. I am trying to create people who live innately, because I know if you can do this, okay, your body's going to be free of drugs. You're going to have an abundance of health and vitality. And you're going to be living up to your God-given potential. You're going to be way more productive. Okay? You're going to be serving your God-given purpose. And that energy will be infectious. And you will now start to impact the people around you. And your family will become healthier. Your husbands, your wives, your children. You know why? Not because you're going to force them to, but you'll be an example. And if you can get your family healthier, right, and then you can get your friends healthier, you can have a healthier community. And if you can get your community healthier, you can have a healthier city. And if we can have a healthier city, we can have a healthier state. And if we can have a healthier state, we can have a healthier country. And if we can have a healthier country, we can have a healthier world. Right? Guess what? If a virus can spread, so can this. Yeah. This is a thought virus. It's called a meme, right? It can. It really can. And it's not something radical. It's a return to the natural order, guys. Yeah. You understand that? There's a natural order. That's why I love this shirt. Stand for Health Freedom. Because right now, because of the ignorance that we have when it comes to health, right? We're being dictated to what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and there's no rational thought, which drives me nuts, right? Because my lens is so different, because I look at it from several point of views. I look at health logically. I look at it scientifically, from a natural order. And I'm not talking a scientific journal, by the way, or paper, okay? Because science is the study of all things natural. You guys understand that, right? That's what science was meant to be initially. The early scientists were called naturalists. I'm just going to go off on a bit of a tangent because I want you guys to think critically. The early scientists were called naturalists. And what they did, a lot of them were church leaders. And what they wanted to do, they looked at nature and they wanted to understand it. They wanted to understand how nature worked. How is it that we where does our health come from? Where the animals? How does all this work so I can understand it and work in harmony with it? And at some point in time, I think it was in the 17th or the 16th century, in the Renaissance period, right? Especially when you had people like René Descartes, if you've ever heard of him. He was a French philosopher and mathematician, okay? And these people started looking at it differently. And what really changed things is when physics became a thing. And they said, well, we can predict the movement of the constellations and the stars, right? And we can predict certain things. So because you could predict certain events in the world and the movement of the constellations and the stars, they applied, so biologists thought, well, we can do the same thing to biological systems, right? Because it looked logical, A to B to C. The problem is biological systems don't work like that, see? And that's why we do what we do. And so it changed from wanting to be in harmony with nature, understanding nature, to we want to understand it so we can dominate it. You see the difference? So once we want to dominate nature, right, and control it, we try to manipulate it. And that trickles all the way down to gene therapy, right? Where it has its benefits, don't get me wrong, right? But we can take that too far when we start manipulating things. You see that? And so that's how we got into where we are now, even with drugs. Where it's like drugs and vaccines, this is the answer, this is the answer, as opposed to going, what's the cause? Like, why is it that some people would get sick from COVID and some don't? Who's researching that, right? Because what we tend to do is only research the bad things, right? It's like, what caused people to die? That's what we research. Okay, that's fine. How about we research what causes people to live? Or is that just me? Like, when did that become radical, right? Because guess what? I want to know why you're healthier. See, but you know what we do? What do you think is the answer to that question? Not the real answer, but the catch-all answer to that question. When you ask your doctor, well, how is it that some people are healthy and some are not? They say it's because they have better what? Genetics.
It's all genetics.
Listen, your genes, my genes, okay? It's like the best, it's not a perfect analogy, it's like the trigger on a gun. It only becomes dangerous when you do what? Pull it. Your genes, let me tell you what your genes are. Your genes, that's your genetic potential. It's like a blueprint. It's like a schematic. So if I had a blueprint for this building right here, okay, those are your genes, right? So let's say someone did the schematic and I'm a builder, right? It tells me how to build this building, how to make things, but guess what? Suppose the architect says, hey, so listen, Vita, here's the schematics to build this building, but let me tell you, this building is designed to do this function, it's to stand and withstand this, these different like hurricanes and tornadoes. So to do so, you need to build it with these materials, right? You get where I'm going with this? And so you follow the instructions. But I go to you now and I say, hey, Karen, I tell you the same thing, but you decide that you're going to use shoddy material. Which building's going to be stronger? Same genetics, same schematics. You guys get what I'm saying? So there's this thing called gene expression, and it's called epigenetics. Who's heard that term before? Epigenetics is the interplay between your genetic potential and your lifestyle. That's the difference. It's the choices. And now we know that is a greater part of the equation than the genes themselves. It's the decisions that we make on a daily basis. And here's the scary thing about that. Even before you have kids, the choices that you make can change your kid's gene expression. Now, it's not a death sentence, right? It's not etched in stone, because now that's how you get a propensity for things. So family history doesn't mean family genetics. I had a colleague that wrote this book, and he kind of put it this way. He said, imagine, right? Now, these are his words, right? Not mine, right? But it was a great analogy. He says, so here comes a white man, right? Coming he said, like, to wherever culture it might be. Indigenous people with their white bread, right? He was talking about grains, right? And he's white, by the way, right? So he's like coming with their white grains and their liquor and all these different things, and they come into the society who've never seen it before. And you introduce that to that culture. And this culture doesn't know anything about heart disease. They don't know anything about diabetes. They've never had cancer, okay? But before you know it, the next a generation or two, they start having that stuff, right? You guys follow me? Right? Because they've changed their lifestyle and started consuming things that they weren't supposed to. And then guess what happens? One generation passes, right? Because of epigenetics and because of the lifestyle, that next generation has it. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes. And then the next generation has it. I'll stay in the frame, Kevin. And before you know it, 4 generations have it, right? You go to the doctor now, and the doctor says, well, listen, you have high blood pressure, you have heart disease. Anyone else in your family? Your mom or dad? Yeah, my mom suffered with high blood pressure, digestive issues. Oh, wow. And then what about their parents? Yeah, my grandparents did too. It's genetic. Were you genetically tested? Do you know that to be true? So if you take that position and it's genetic, then does it really matter what you do? You just have bad genes, right? So now there's no incentive to change your lifestyle because it's your genes, right? It's called genetic predeterminism is what that's called. And it's what the medical model is based on, the assumption that genes cause problems. And so if it's the genes, watch the thinking now, okay? If it's the genes that cause the problem, right, and lifestyle is really minimal, you dismiss it. So then what's the answer? If you have a condition or a diagnosis, you're sick, if you can't really do anything about it, if you can't be healthier naturally to protect yourself against heart disease, cancer, or a virus, what's the answer? The answer is from the outside in. Do you see how we got here? The answer now becomes outside in. You need this to get well. You need this to protect yourself. And we dismiss the fact that there are people who can be healthy based on lifestyle. We dismiss the fact that you can actually not have heart disease based on your choices. We dismiss the fact that you can actually have a very strong immune system that can protect you against bacteria and viruses. We dismiss the fact that actually those people exist. And that's what happened. We discard them. We don't even count them. We don't count the number of people. We don't look at their lives. We don't ask the questions. Why is it that you're healthy and you're not? We don't even ask those questions. You know why we don't ask those questions? Because it's not what? It's not profitable. It's not profitable. But you know what? Sorry guys, I get a little fired up about this. Whose responsibility is your health? It's yours. Stop letting other people, including me, dictate your health. Like, stop it, because it's your health. And when you lose it, right? Here's the deal. When you lose it, not only do you affect yourself, who else do you affect? Everybody else. And if you die early, right, you're a believer, you go to heaven, great. What about the people left behind? What about the husband? What about the wife? What about the kids? What about the purpose that you were supposed to be living that God created for you? What about that thing that you were supposed to do? What about the passion that you had when you were 15, 16, 17 years old, 21 years old? You had this passion, this fire to do something, and it's all gone. It's more than just you. So stop letting other people, the media, and anybody else dictate your health. You have to take responsibility of your health. That's why you're here, right? Given the number of patients that we see, I should have people littered. We should have to move into the other room, right? I should have to, because I had to rent this room, I should have to go back and go, hey, can we get the other room? And here's the extra several $100s that whatever it costs to rent the room. Because we have so many, that's why. Because you're taking responsibility for your health, you're knowing these things, then you got to go change and do something different, and watch what, I guarantee you will be healthier. Guaranteed it. And as a doctor, we're taught we shouldn't guarantee anything. I guarantee it. You know why? Because it's not based on me. It's based on the laws and principles, right, that are laid out in this universe by the same creator that created everything else. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Give me a head nod, an amen, something. Like a hallelujah, like one of those. I got to end. How did I go from exercise to that? Exercise. Excuses. Excuses. The world is riddled with excuses. Honestly, cancer doesn't care about your excuse. Heart disease doesn't care about your excuse. Autoimmune disease, it doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't, right? It doesn't even like that, la, 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 la. I can't hear any excuses, right? So please don't give me, I'm being a little harsh here. I don't want to hear excuses. Now, when you give it to me in the office, I may smile. I may say, hey, yes, and I get it. Listen, you know, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? How do you take a journey of 1,000 miles one step at a time? Oh, I get it, yeah. Oh, yeah, you don't like to wake up early, I understand. Well, maybe, no, wake up early.
Wake up early.
Oh, I don't like this food. I like this stuff. No, eat it. I don't like to exercise. No, do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Max T3, who's done that before? The concept is really simple, right? It's awesome. I've been working out I'm 50 years old, about to be 51. I've been working out since I was 14 years old, right? I played sports growing up, soccer on the island of Barbados where I was born. Then I started playing basketball, football, tennis, you name it. Like I played it all. And I started really working out, like exercising, you know, at 15 years old because I broke my leg playing football, had a cast, couldn't do PE, right? So it's become part of my lifestyle. But when I started doing this, like Max T3, high intensity, short duration type workouts, radically changed my health. Like, I mean, at one point, you know, I was 20 something years old, lifting weight. You know, I'm like 5'10" on a good day. I was probably about 190 pounds, right? I'm 170 now. But it wasn't until I started doing this that not only was I able, because I tried to lose the weight, I was big, but it was kind of soft and my clothes weren't fitting right after a while, and my wife would make fun of my butt. You know, I had a big butt and everything else, and you didn't think that was funny? It did happen though, she did. I'm just real, I'm transparent. So I got to a point where I didn't feel healthy. And I tried to lose the weight and I lost 10 pounds. And I had a bet with my wife, Angela. I said, okay, it was probably like May or June, I don't remember. By my birthday, September, I'm gonna lose this next 10 pounds. And mind you, I was like eating what I thought was well, working out. I couldn't lose it. How many people have been there? And then I started doing Max T3, right? And I remember one time I stepped on the scale and I was like, oh my God, I'm 170 pounds? Are you kidding me? Like that, it happened. Because it's based on the whole concept that you're using multiple energy systems. So the shorter your time that you work out and the higher the intensity, the more effective it is. And what it does, it raises your testosterone levels. It raises your human growth hormone levels. It helps to modulate your insulin levels, right, which is your fat storage hormone. It strengthens your heart. It creates power, agility, balance, the way it's designed. So it's true fitness. And you'll become more functionally fit, which is the most important thing, right? And you become healthier. So that's the whole idea behind it. And then it talks about T3. The T3 really talks about changing the time, the tempo, and then the type of exercise. So you keep changing it, right? Yeah, so some workouts are 6 minutes, some are 12 minutes, some are 18 minutes, some are 24 minutes, right? Some is 2 exercises, some is 6 exercises, some it's 4 exercises. And you vary what you do. Sometimes you're doing push-ups, sometimes you're doing burpees. You might be doing jumping jacks, right? You can kind of, you know, air squats. You can kind of dial it up and down as you go. And so that's the whole point of it. And then, of course, we talked about toxins. So I don't have to spend a ton of time on this. I think most people understand that. These are just different sources. Glyphosate you find in Roundup. So when you're spraying your weeds and stuff and that stuff gets on your skin, that's a carcinogen. We know that to be true now. We know that the glyphosate causes cancer in your body. Okay, BPA. All right, that's the chemical that's in plastic water bottles, right? A lot of plastic products. And then we have heavy metals, the amalgams in your mouth. Okay, if you're cooking with Teflon, stop it, because that, I know it's non-stick and it's easy to flip the eggs, but it breaks down. That's toxic. Okay. And there's so many others too that are toxic. So you want to detox your health, your gut. And we have several products that will help you with that. You want to support your liver, right? In your liver, you have what's called phase 2 detoxification. And one of the hormones that's responsible for that is called glutathione. The problem is that stress and the aging process can decrease glutathione, which is the master detoxification hormone in your body. So that's why it's so important that you support it. So the daily detox that we use uses, it has glutathione in it, as well as precursors to glutathione to help support your liver so you can detox and get a lot of those toxins out of your body. Okay, and so there's two phases. Anytime you want to do a detox, you should have a cell detox, something that actually goes in the cell and binds the toxins, but also you need a body detox to escort the toxins out of your body. Because if you don't do that, what happens is, like, a gut flush is not the same as a detox or a cleanse. A lot of times what will happen is you may bind the toxins, but it may not get out of your body, and so you retoxify. So that's why whatever you decide to do, if you're looking for a product, whether it's ours or somebody else's, make sure that that's the case. You've got two systems, a cell detox and a body detox. And then let's skip this one here. Yeah, so these are just some more examples, right? Cleaning products, big one. Cleaning products, right? That's the air freshener that you spray in the house or in the bathroom, toxic, you're breathing that in. The air fresheners in your car that you may have hanging from the rearview mirror, toxic. The dishwasher, detergent, right? You open that up, you know that steam that hits you? That's toxicity, right? Hand soap, right? What's the biggest organ in your body? Your skin, right? What you shower with, toxic. Carpet, off-gassing. You know that new carpet smell or a new car smell? That's off-gassing, right? Chemicals being emitted that you're inhaling all the time, right? So there's so many different sources of toxicity, it's impossible to avoid them, okay? It's impossible to avoid them. So that's why you want to detox from time to time. And then, of course, we're going to end with the gut-brain connection, right? So what's the master control system? Someone please make me happy, right? Your brain is the master control system, right? So when it comes to the nervous system and the gut, it's very important the two communicate. We talked about that. We talked about the fact that a lot of hormones and neurotransmitters are actually made in the gut and they travel to the brain and vice versa. That's why, if you have poor nutrition, it can affect your brain and how you think, right? But stress can also do it. That's why stress is so dangerous, because when you have stress of any kind, you're changing the chemistry in your body, but you're also changing the chemistry in your gut too. So the more stress you have, that can lead to inflammation in the body and the gut. It can lead to an imbalance in the microbiome because the two are connected. So you never think about that. We think about food, but emotional stress too can actually disrupt you. Because some people will say, it's the one essential that you don't do that kills you. Because I hear people say, yeah, but I eat well and I exercise. I don't understand why I'm unhealthy. Well, what's your thought life like? Right? It's just like people tell me, again, in the midst of this COVID thing, people go, yeah, but what about that guy over there who was a personal trainer and he got it and died? Well, first of all, number one, he might be an outlier, right? It's like George Burns. Remember him? What was he was a comedian, but what was so significant about him? What did he do every single day? He what? Cigar every single day, and he lived to how old? You go try that and see what happens. Like, don't give me examples about outliers. Does that make sense? Right. Like, that's good for him. I don't know why. But at the same time, I'm not going to go, George Burns did it, so I'm going to do it. So don't tell me about outliers, number one. And even so, my question was he healthy? Just because someone looks good doesn't mean they're healthy. Patrick Swayze, right? Remember him? Yeah. Did he not look good?
Yeah, but he wasn't healthy.
He wasn't healthy. What did he die from? Yeah. Did the cancer start like the day before? No. That means that while he was dirty dancing, right? Farrah Fawcett. Remember her? Cancer too. So someone goes, but look at this guy. I mean, he came down and he died from it. You don't know if he was healthy. You don't know if that guy, he looked fit, right? But you don't know, just because he looked fit, was his nutrition, did he have good nutrition? Right? What did he put in his body? Was he stressed out? How many people you see them on the outside and everything looks great, and you sit with them and everything isn't great? And they're crying themselves to sleep every night, and they're stressed out. Stress hormones are all-time high. What do stress hormones do? They destroy the body. You see what I'm saying? We just have to be careful. We look from the outside and we have this image of health, and we don't know what the heck it is. And we're basing decisions on those fickle things, right? So your nervous system is so important because it's the mediator. So that's why mental health and the things that you think about is very important. And it's not the stress, by the way, it's how you respond to it. That's the other thing. Because listen, there's some stressors that you can avoid and some you can't. Okay, fine. You can divorce your husband or your wife or your spouse, whatever. You could if you wanted to. But is that really the problem, right? Can you just go and quit your job? No. It's how you perceive it. How do you perceive the problem? How do you perceive that and how do you respond? That's the key, right? Your thought life. And for me, I'm not shy about the fact that I'm a believer, right? A believer in Christ. So for me, that's my anchor. That's my rock, right? So, for me, I always talk about this, my morning routine, right? I wake up every single morning when I wake up, right? I have a routine, especially during the week when I have to come into the office, right? I pray, I meditate, right? I read the word. Why? I need that. You know why? Because I'm not some machine and I'm not a group of organs. I'm a spiritual being first and foremost. As I've heard it said before, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So we feed our mouths and our body all the time, right? But what are you doing for your mind? What are you doing for your spirit, right? What are you anchoring to? If you have an identity and you say, you know what? I am fearfully and wonderfully made, right? That's the rock that you stand on, right? If God is for me, who can be against me, right? I have the Holy Spirit inside of me, and I have the peace that surpasses all understanding. Like if you start making those declarations, that's who you become. It's no different from the person who says, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'll never be anything. Or the child that hears that, what happens to that child? One of two things happen. They either use it as motivation to go, I'm going to show you that you're wrong, but most oftentimes that's who they become. You are who you say you are. So if I'm the rock, right? I am more than a conqueror. I can overcome this thing. Now you look at these things in your face, especially the things that you can't do anything about. You look at it and you go, you know what? Fine. I decide I'm gonna respond differently. Yeah, you may say nasty things about me, but you know what? It's how I choose to respond. The Stoics had it right? That's called Stoicism. They're like, I can't do anything about it. So why would I get upset about something I can't? Now, I'm not saying this is easy, right? Like, I get it. Cutting out sugar is not easy, but it's necessary. Right? You guys with me on that? I didn't mean to take you guys to church, but, it is what it is. Right? Gut healthy, peace management, control what you can. Well, right there. Carve out your time. Make a habit. You see how you peace. First of all, when you guys first, and I know a lot of you have been on the chiropractic here for a while, but when you first walked into a Max Living office, and you say, I'm going to go get on the chiropractic here, were you expecting this? This is the principle of chiropractic. Above, down, inside out. Adio. Above, down, inside out. This is the chiropractic way of life. This is the chiropractic meaning of life. It's not about popping your bones and making you feel good. This is it. It's about living holistically and vitalism and being one, right? Mind, body, and spirit. This is the chiropractic philosophy. This is what I'm about to steamroll these students later today with. Because a lot of them in school don't get this. The schools don't teach this anymore. This is where chiropractic and the chiropractic philosophy started. And they don't teach that anymore. That's why many of you go, yeah, but I went to this other chiropractor, I never heard that. Because they don't teach it, right? Or they're afraid to say it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Me speaking like this. You guys quit and go somewhere else. Well, guess what? Who's my source? There'll be more people who need my help. Right? The truth shall set you free. Right? So that's why I speak truth, at least what I think is the truth. And hey, if it resonates, great. I love you. I'm here. If it doesn't, it's cool. Free will, freedom. Right? The minute I start to think, I don't want to say that because I'm afraid, and it's the truth, that right there is a sin. And I'm not going to sin for any of you guys. Sorry. Right? But is this not necessary? Like, do more people need to hear this? Yeah. Do you think if more people live this and got this, you think we'd be where we are right now? No. We'd be so much healthier. Oh my goodness. It's incredible. I can't even speak. So, full circle as I end, because I do have to end. Not bad, 2 hours? Yeah, it's pretty pretty good. Nervous system. The nervous system. It's the master control system. Right? It's the master control. You are your nervous system. What do I mean by that? Ask someone who's had brain damage. Right? Someone who's had brain damage or PTSD. What happens to their personality? Completely shifts. You are your nervous system. Let's go back to the stress thing. When you're under stress and your perception of it and it takes over your mind, what happens to your physical body? Changes. What happens to your ability to be rational and logical? By the way, that's by design. Right? Your stress response is by design because the purpose of your stress response is to get you out of a crisis. Right? It's like if a lion runs into this room, the purpose of the stress response is to save your life. Right? Right? It's called fight or flight or freeze. There's 3 of them. But it's designed to save your life in a crisis. The problem is that your brain and your nervous system doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. What does that mean? It means that who's ever been chased by a dog? Okay? Or has something that happened to you that really freaked you out? What happens when you think about that situation? What happens to your body? That's how powerful your thoughts are. How about if you had a phone call to make and you anticipate that the phone call is not going to go well? It's going to be confrontational. There might be some anger and some harsh words, and you dread it. How do you feel? Right? And then you tell the story in your head, right? You're like, man, I'm so pissed off right now, and I know, but when I call, I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to say this, and he or she's going to say this, and if they say that, then I'm going to tell them this right here. And if they say that, right? Who's done that before? And what happens? You get all what? Worked up. Your heart rate increases. So you've just changed your physiology just by your thoughts and your perception. That's how powerful your body is. And if that's how you live your life, from one crisis to another, your body actually learns to be that way. And you're bathing your cells in these stress hormones. And that's another way that you create disease in your body. And that's why you have high blood pressure. Because the high blood pressure was actually designed, right, to mobilize your muscles so you can run from the lion or fight, right? That's why. As a matter of fact, what the nervous system does, and I'm telling you this for a reason because you'll see how it ties in here in a second, what your brain does innately, this is innate now, you're wired this way. This is one of the few things that you're wired. Innately, your body is going to send more blood from the front of your brain to the back of your brain. Why is that significant? The front of your brain is your prefrontal cortex. And that's what makes us human. That's what allows us to be rational. That's what allows us to want to kill somebody, but you don't. Right? That's your reasoning. That's what allows you to love. That's what allows you to plan and to think about a future, right? And to rationalize. Prefrontal cortex. Okay? So of all the animals in the animal kingdom, we have the prefrontal cortex. It's more developed, right? You damage that, like in a lobotomy, and guess what happens? That person's different. So your body sends blood from the front to the back because the back is your basic survival. And it affects your brain and your brain stem, right, by the atlas. See where I'm going with this? And it causes your blood pressure to go up. It causes your blood sugar to go up. Why? Because quick energy. You need quick energy. So your blood sugar goes up. Okay? Right? So your insulin also goes up because you need to get the blood. You need to get that sugar in the cell. So your insulin goes up. You see where I'm going with this? The blood goes from your gut, okay? Because your body thinks you don't need to digest food right now. You're worried about not being food. So the body will take blood from your gut and redirect it to your muscles and all these other places. It will actually take energy and blood away from your reproductive system. That's why if you're under stress, one of the side effects could be you can't conceive or you can't carry a child to term. The other thing that happens, watch this. One of the biggest systems in your body that requires energy is your immune system because it's constantly going. So your body says, well, again, this is a crisis. So we're going to take the energy in the blood away from your immune system. We're going to downregulate your immune system because guess what? Your biggest threat right now is not bacteria or virus. Your biggest threat is being eaten. You see what the body does? But it's short term. So now if you live a stressful lifestyle, all those things are happening. So guess what happens, right? In 2020 and 21, what all you do is watch the news. Doom, 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 doom. You're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. Don't go outside, you're going to die, you're going to die. You're going to die. What are you thinking? Right? Is that not stressing you out? Did 2020 not stress you out? As much as I'm saying about, you got to control, it stressed the heck out of me too, for many different reasons. So guess what? Now, what happens to your immune system? So what happens to now your ability to naturally fight the virus? Do you see how it becomes a vicious cycle? That's your nervous system. One of the things that happens when you have a stress response like that is that your body, because of that tension that builds up, okay, if it's there long enough, guess what happens to your spine? It starts to dysfunction. Because what happens is that the little muscles that align your spine and keep it aligned and tells the brain where you are in space and time to keep everything healthy, when you're under a stress response, they go to sleep. They literally get dysfunctional. So then your brain's ability to regulate your alignment goes away. And that's how subluxations are caused. Right? So not just physical trauma, it could be mental stress that causes subluxations. Right? So now when that spine goes out of alignment, because there's no feedback to the brain, right? Your nervous system can't correct it. So now it becomes a chronic thing. Eventually, that subluxation, okay, is going to start causing you some type of pain. But before you have a symptom of that subluxation, because the spine is connected to the nervous system and they need each other, when the spine goes out of alignment, you are literally disrupting the flow of information from the brain to the body.
So you don't get the signal.
So you're not getting the signal. So now your brain isn't getting the feedback from your organs. So your brain doesn't know what messages to send out, or the messages that it sends out is inaccurate. So now you're in this perpetual cycle where the very system that's meant to heal you is the one that's in trouble, your nervous system, because it can't communicate with the rest of the body. So your body starts to break down. So it becomes a progressive degenerative condition, and it goes downhill and downhill. So eventually, not only do you have pain, you have degeneration of your joints, because if the joints don't move, guess what? You don't move, your discs degenerate. And your body responds by laying down bones, because it says your spine is unstable, right? And it's affecting your nervous system. We have to lay down bone to stabilize it. Your body tries to heal it by laying down bone, but it can't correct it. That's why when we take an x-ray and I see bone spurs, the degeneration of your disc, your body has been in a state of dis-ease or distress for a long time, 10, 20, 15 years. Now it's affecting your organs. So now the organs are in a state of dysfunction. And so now when your body alerts you that you have dysfunction in the organs, right? If you don't know this, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go where? And you're going to get what? Right. But you never get to the cause. Right? That's why some of you have had some amazing testimonies from being adjusted. Right, Chuck? You and I talked about one the other day. So I've heard it all. A1C levels drops, right? In 21 years of practice. I was laughing because, I always mention how long I've been in practice, and these guys think it's funny. But A1C, I think it's funny too. A1C levels drop. That's why, what I just explained. Because once you adjust the spine, right? I didn't treat the A1C. What I did, I removed the interference from the nervous system. The nervous system is now back online. It can now communicate. It now becomes aware. And which, by the way, here's another thing. Back to the prefrontal cortex. This one neuroscientist was able to show that when you get an adjustment, especially upper cervical, but when you get an adjustment, it impacts, because she's a scientist, so she has to use this word, but really it improves the functioning of your prefrontal cortex by up to 20%. The prefrontal cortex directly and indirectly controls all the other functions in the body. So if the brain is the master control system, the prefrontal cortex is the conductor of the brain. Let's put it this way. When your prefrontal cortex is offline and not functioning, you can have anything from heart disease to a weak immune system to being a sociopath to autoimmune disease to bipolarism and schizophrenia. Yeah, that's how important that is, right? If you look up any neuroscience journal over the last 10 to 20 years, that's all they talk about, prefrontal cortex. And when you get an adjustment, that part of your brain works better. Literally, what I'm trying to tell you, and this is no stretch, when you get an adjustment, you've now become more human. How powerful is. So you have to excuse us, right? This is what we're thinking, because Dr. Kevin here, he's about to join the team too. Knowing this sort of thing, when someone comes in and they go, I know you're subluxated, right? I have the x-rays when you lay on the table, right? Can I be transparent and honest with you? Listen, we meet you where you are. But when you go, yeah, my neck hurts right here today, or my back hurts, we're so far beyond that right now. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. We're thinking, if you only knew. You're worried about your back, right? I'm worried about your brain. I'm worried about your heart. I'm worried about your thyroid, right? No one dies from back pain or neck pain. Nope. You see the gap? I'm just being transparent with you. People, like chiropractors who understand this principle, that's what we're thinking in that moment. And we get together and we talk about it. How do we get our patients to stop focusing on that pain and get the big idea and the big picture? How do we communicate this? Because you don't hear this. Like, this is a paradigm shift for many of you right now, right? But that's what happens when you get adjusted, and the science backs it up. Do you see why we look at things so differently, especially what's happening today? Right? We look at it so differently. It's unbelievable. But we always have. We always have. We've always had this position when it comes to anything, when it comes to medical intervention. It's only for a crisis. That's it. That's it. It's not meant to be a lifestyle or way of life. You guys good with that? So that's why taking care of your spine and your nervous system is so important, right? Because it's detrimental to your health if it's not. Not just your health, but even who you are. That's why you have all these, that's why we have a range of different things. And guess what? What it does in you, right? So for you, what was one of the major things? Your voice. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Being under care, she was a singer, she sings, right, in the choir, and you stopped for a while because the quality of your voice changed. And then she started being adjusted and it what? Went up. I can't predict that. And by the way, I'm happy when you guys don't tell me these things when you first came in. I love it. No, you know why? Right? Because it just shows you the power of the adjustment. Right? I don't know what your symptoms are, and it doesn't matter. I actually don't care. I do care, but I don't. Because all I have to do is move the bone, God does the healing. Right? All right, that's it. Love you guys. Right? So this is what you're going to do. Thank you. You don't have to applaud. But thank you. And thank you guys for watching. I was all over the place. I'm sorry. You can fast forward the parts you don't like. So here's the action steps. For some of you, you need to do the metabolic testing. Yes, it's an investment, but do it. Okay? And what happens is when those results come back, we're going to put a program together for you if it's necessary. Okay? And that program is going to be separate. That's a separate cost to you. But I don't know what it is until we see the program. We'll talk. And it's optional. You don't have to do it. The very least, get the testing. Okay? And you know who you are that need it. Okay? Number one. Number two, start sharing. You know so much right now. Start sharing this message with other people. Right? Start explaining exactly not just what what chiropractic is in the principle, but what Max Living is all about. Because there's people out there that need to be rescued, and you know who they are. Okay? And this is why we do workshops. We're going to start doing dinners again, if they let us. Okay? And we're going to teach this principle, and people are going to get help. Right? So these rooms are going to be triple and packed out. That's what we're going to do, because we're on a mission. We're going to ask you to co-mission with us. Then I'm going to ask you to choose something different that you're going to do over the next 30 days. Core plan, advanced plan, exercising, do something different. Morning routine, pick one of the essentials and go for the next 30 days, I'm committed to this essential. I would like it to be all 5. Because if you can do all 5 all at the same time for a period of time, you'll get the best results. Okay? Commit to lifetime chiropractic care. Commit yourself to going, you know what? I'm going to take care of my spine for the rest of my life. It doesn't mean that you get adjusted 3 times a week or twice a week. Most people, given the lifestyle that we have today, once a week is where most people need to be. At the worst, once every 2 weeks. Commit to that as a lifestyle, just like you would all the other essentials. That's what I ask of you, right? And then keep your appointments. Don't miss appointments. And do your home care. All right, I appreciate you guys so much. Love you. Thank you for being here.